Ready to make a real impact every day? Join the Active Day Home Care team and help clients maintain their independence in the comfort of their own homes. Make a difference in someone's life as you provide essential daily assistance and protect their health and happiness. Earn up to $20 an hour and enjoy additional perks like optional daily pay, 401k, paid time off, ongoing educational training, and more. Join a team that values care, compassion, and your professional growth. Visit activeday.com to apply.
Attention, you're listening to the Todd Huff Radio Show, America's home for conservative, not bitter talk radio. Be advised that the content of this program has been documented to prevent and even cure liberalism, and listening may cause you to lean to the right. Here's your conservative, but not bitter host, Todd Huff.
Well, that is right, my friends. You've tuned in here to America's home for conservative, not bitter talk. Second hour, and I got a word about that here in a moment. Second hour of the program. Friends, before I get to that and get into the stories of the day, I still want to keep talking about what's happening in the media. PBS said that Hegseth had, berated the media yesterday and so forth. I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what Trump has said. Trump says, fire everybody involved, which I love this. I mean, listen, I think, it's possible that Hegseth may have misstepped a time or two in this thing. But in general, the overall reality is that we, the American people, and really this administration, are dealing with a hostile media who has no interest in telling the truth. They have an interest in stopping the Trump agenda, the Trump mandate, and it's pretty pathetic. So I'll look over some of this. But anyway, I want to talk about that. There's other things in the stack of stuff as well. But friends, before I do that, I want to ask you, if you're in sales, do you have a system? Because if you don't have a system, my friends, that is a recipe for disaster. You're going to miss follow-ups. You're going to get prospects confused. There's going to be a mess up somewhere, and you're leaving money on the table as well. And you're not taking care of your customers. There's all sorts of things can happen here if you don't have a good system. Matt Easton and Easton University are here to help you build a system and a process whereby you can manage the sales process better. They have developed what I think is the best. It's definitely one of the best, but possibly the very best sales training system that I have ever seen. It's practical, it's proven, it's designed to deliver results. So whether you're new to sales or you're a seasoned professional, this system can help you close more deals, make more money, take control of your career, take better care of your customers. So go to toddhuffshow.com/Easton. You got to take this first step. I know it can be intimidating or scary or whatever, but I'm telling you, if you follow his system, good things are bound to be on your horizon. toddhuffshow.com/Easton, EASTON. toddhuffshow.com/Easton. You can go check out some information. I think there's even a free portion. You can do a free portion of a course or an intro course or something through the site. And if you sign up through the website to be a student of Easton University, you're going to get a free welcome call from Matt where he will walk you through the process and get you onboarded and ready to go. That's exclusive to you as a listener of this program. toddhuffshow.com/Easton. All right, I alluded to this, and I mentioned this at the very tail end of the first hour, and I need to address this now. So we've been doing this show for 10 years. This show started off as a podcast that didn't have to be formatted for radio or anything, so it would be somewhere between 30 and 40 minutes long. As the program grew, it was multiple. It became a 60-minute program. It filled an hour. Now there's commercial breaks in there, as you well know. But we had to format the program for radio. We grew it. We kept it at 1 hour for a while. We tried 2 hours, went back to one, and We've expanded to 2 hours here. I don't know when we did that. It's been, I don't know. Oz, do you know how long it's been too? Has it been a year? Has it been 6 months? A year? Don't know. It's been a little bit of time, but not a super long time. And just as it is in this industry, you have to adjust and figure out, okay, how do I do the most I can with the resources and the time that I have available, right? And so there's a lot to manage, and we've concluded, as you may remember, we had, and this is closed, by the way, we're going to reopen for monthly memberships, but we have the Inner Circle that we're launching. I told you that we're launching it here, and as we've thought about that and just everything else that we're trying to manage and with, again, the time and resources and things that just are at our disposal, we've decided that moving to a 1 hour daily program, podcast and show, is what we have to do. And then we can really start to develop the Inner Circle program, the membership program, which will do other things there that we can't even do on the radio. And so just with the mission and vision of the show and just the realities of trying to manage the stuff that's behind the scenes, which I know it's hard to believe, but I do work longer than just 2 hours a day here on the program. And so that's what we're going to do. So starting Monday, the podcast and radio show will be an hour again, and we're going to be working on building out the Inner Circle for additional content there. And again, different sorts of things there. Same content, but focused more. My passion, ultimately, when you get down to it, and this may surprise you when I say this, and actually I like to say it for a little bit of the shock value, but I hate politics. That may sound crazy, but when I say politics, I mean all of the ways that what we mean when we say it's politics, right? It's someone who's acting in a shady way, making some backroom deal. I hate all of that messy part of, and some of it, not the shady part, but some of the process is just necessary. I don't like the minutia. I love the ideas. I love the debate. I love the concept, the philosophy, the discussing these issues from a high level and why they matter. I like that, but that's not politics. That's worldview. That's ideology. I mean, it is politics, but politics at a high level, not in page number 1107, subsection R, section 2, subsection 1 of some piece of legislation. That bores me to tears. That may surprise you. Maybe it doesn't. So on this program, there's things I feel like at my heart, and I think I learned this or learned to appreciate this from Dave Ramsey. He always would talk about having the heart of a teacher, and I feel like I come at it from that perspective. And there's some things that I think we can do better from a teaching perspective, even if it's a smaller audience. If we can find the people, if you remember when I talked about the Inner Circle, I said this is not for everybody, and it may not be for you, but we're trying to build a movement here in the little way that we can, right? Just our little corner of the world. We want to help people become more persuasive, more effective conservative communicators. And some of that requires a different type of a format than simply just getting the news and information. This is a part of it. This certainly is a part of it. I think you have to know the right information. You have to have an understanding of the issues. But there's also a whole bunch of other skills that we have to pick up on and learn. And there's things that just translate or that can be better delivered to you through another side of the content that's not really designed for radio and podcasts. So that's what we're doing. I know for some of you that's maybe upsetting, and I do apologize. We're going to start ramping up our newsletter. There's going to be, it's not that we're going to do less content. In fact, I would say we may even do more content. It's just going to be different in the sense of it's not going to be jammed into 2 hours here every day. You're going to find more in our newsletter that we're going to be launching or relaunching here. So that's what we're doing, and I feel like I have to acknowledge that and tell you that, and that'll be effective on Monday. All right, so let us move on here. I shared with you off the top that Trump had said that everyone that is involved in the way that this Iran strike was covered should be fired. I like this about Trump. President Trump, this is the dailywire.com. I don't know why the formatting. I must have done something to a setting here to change the formatting because it's hard to read these sites right now. But here's what it says. It says President Donald Trump unloaded on the legacy media after a Thursday morning press conference, which was meant to correct the record on the U.S. military's recent strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities held by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. That's what we've been talking about, what we talked about in the previous hour. Trump took to his Truth Social platform to praise Hegseth for delivering one of the most professional press conferences he'd ever seen. That's what Trump posted. I love how Trump does. Some folks are so bothered by this. I am entertained by this. Everything that Trump sees, that's the most professional, the best, probably the most historic. This is just how Trump communicates. And some people get so worked up over this. But again, if you understand that Trump is basically playing that card in response to how he's being framed and talked about in the media by other politicians and so forth, this is his way of responding to that. Not just saying, no, we're better than you're saying we are. No, we're the best. Yeah, we're the best. If you're going to say we're the worst, then in order for me to get people to understand the truth, I got to take it way the other direction so that they know the truth lies somewhere in between what these scoundrels in the media are saying about me and what I'm saying about myself. So Hegseth, he said, had one of the most professional press conferences he'd ever seen. And Trump called for the media outlets that had pushed ahead with leaked intelligence to, quote, fire everybody involved. Here's what the Truth Social post says. Pete Hegseth retweeted this, thanking the president. Trump says this. Trump says, one of the greatest, most professional, and most confirming, in quotation marks, news conferences I have ever seen, exclamation point. The fake news, not all caps, capital F, capital N, should fire everyone involved in this witch hunt, capital W, capital H, and apologize to our great warriors and everyone else, exclamation point. Now, he didn't go all caps here, but he did use a lot of exclamation points, a lot of well, I shouldn't say a lot, multiple capital letters when referring to the news conference and fake news and the witch hunt. But this is Trump saying, look, you guys are out. You have a job, right? You have a job to do, and you're not doing it. You are so focused on attacking me, maligning me, misrepresenting me, taking me down, doing all sorts of shenanigans to prevent the truth from coming out. I mean, just think about even in recent memory, all of the negatives, all the ways that these stories are spun negatively. For example, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who, by the way, the administration said that he'll be deported to a third. He's not supposed to be deported, I should say, to El Salvador. But they said he could be deported somewhere else, and that's what they're planning to do. But if you read the news media reports, remember, we talked about this on this program. It was a Maryland man, a Maryland father, was sent to El Salvador by the Trump Gestapo. When in reality, we found out a much grimmer reality of who this guy really was, and that he had a deportation order. He was not supposed to be sent to El Salvador, but he wasn't supposed to be here either. That had been ignored for a long time. We found out that he was allegedly involved with some shady things. This is not some, Boy Scout, someone who's just, a model citizen. He's not a citizen. Although Chris Van Hollen went down there and visited with him, having margaritas or whatever they had. That was in photographs. That, again, photograph, that's what he went down there for. Van Hollen went down there for the photograph because, again, what picture do they want to paint? Literally with the image, but figuratively that Trump is trying to get people who are brown and black or people who are not white Americans just kicked out of the country, send them to prisons in El Salvador. That's the narrative. But that's far from anything close to reality. They want to paint ICE. Look at what happened in Los Angeles. They want to say that there was no riots, that these were peaceful protests. And they literally had the audacity to say these things as cars were engulfed in flames in the background. Literally, this is what they were content to do, was content to talk about it this way and present it this way. This is routine. If you go back to Trump's first term, once they got over mocking him for running and saying that he had no chance of winning, once they realized they had to take him seriously, what did they do? They came up with perhaps the stupidest narrative I have ever talked about on this program. And if you were listening at the time, you would have remembered me talking about this. But the Trump-Russian collusion hoax is the stupidest thing I have ever heard, I'm telling you, as far as political quote-unquote scandals go in my lifetime. And I'll do this really quickly. But we were told that in order to win the election, Trump had to call up Vladimir Putin from another country and ask Vladimir Putin to put his team of social media advertising specialists onto Trump's campaign, people who were from a foreign country, people who didn't have the insights, understand the nuance and the detail of American politics and discourse. Trump went to a foreign country, probably flew over to the Kremlin, popped open a bottle of vodka. I know they say Trump doesn't drink, but we know Trump drank with Putin, smoking cigars at a dimly lit bar, probably a wing of the Kremlin itself. So were golden showers, and all this stuff was supposed to have happened, right? He asks Putin to help him come up with the social media campaign that can trick Hillary voters into voting for Trump. This is literally the story. Now, this is not how they talked about it. They say Trump colluded with Russia to steal the election, and the average American says, oh my goodness, Russians are tricking people. Russians are stealing our votes. But how are they doing that? They're doing it through not through cracking and breaking into machines and changing votes, not hacking anything, not delivering fake ballots. No. In fact, I remember back in 2016, 2017, after this whole narrative was hitting a fevered pitch, I said this. I remember this was before 2020. I said, if you want to steal an election, the last step of the process would not be a marketing campaign, would not be social media marketing. It would be, hey, we're going to break in and manipulate the data. We're going to put fake ballots in. We're going to actually go in and change the counts in the system. That's how you would steal an election. What do you mean social media campaign? You got to be serious. You got to be kidding me. You're not serious. It's a joke. Not a joke, Joe Biden might say. Why? How? Why would you? How would there be guarantees of success? The final step, hear me out, is an ad campaign. That is not how these things go down. Think about all the movies you've ever watched where they have some heist plan. The last phase of stealing the diamond necklace out of the museum or whatever is not a social media campaign. It's not any sort of marketing campaign. And by the way, if it were, and if this marketing campaign was so guaranteed to happen, this company would be in the highest demand of any company on planet Earth. Because if simply by seeing an ad that you posted on Facebook or X or TikTok or Pokemon Go, where some of these ads went, simply by doing that, if the person who viewed the ad lost all ability to say no to your messaging, to your call to action, then marketers around the world, companies around the world would have been knocking down the door of this media conglomerate put together by Vladimir Putin. Putin would have retired completely from politics, just stepped away from the world stage altogether and said, I'm going to run this social media empire. He would be a billionaire in a matter of months because of what people would be willing to pay for his services to get people to say yes because they can't say no. This is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. And the idea that in some circles this is still taken as serious shows me that the critical thinking skills of the people who embrace that are practically at zero. Or they're so blinded by their hatred and rage and what other people say and think that they can't get to a critical thinking perspective, because this is pure hogwash. This is the stupidest thing I have ever heard as far as political scandals, there's the word, happen to go. So, more to say about this stuff, my friends. Got to take a time out here in a moment. Mike Lindell, though, MyPillow, they want to say thank you. They want to say thank you to those of you in this audience who have bought their products. And I know there's a lot of you. You would have bought pillows or sheets, towels. Maybe you've bought maybe you bought the slippers, which Oz doesn't. Are those, what is that? Are those, huh? They MyPillow? Her new MyPillow slippers. So I didn't even recognize. I saw they were anyway. But you can have multiple things that you would have bought from MyPillow, and you could be looking to replace those or add to your collection. They have a lot of good products, but they want to thank you for supporting them and buying their products. They have a special offer on Percale bed sheets right now. These are breathable. They have a cool and crisp feel. They've got deep pockets that fit over any mattress. These look and feel great, and they can help you get a better night's sleep. Also, for a limited time, you can get $100 in free digital gifts from MyPillow when you place an order of $100 or more. So, take that first step, mypillow.com. That's where you go. Promo code Todd will get you the discount on the Percale bed sheets, and it's going to get you, if you spend $100 or more, the free $100 in digital gifts. All right, timeout's in order, my friends. Got to take a break. Quick timeout, back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. So, I want to talk with you about Caroline Leavitt. She's out there defending, basically continuing the offensive assault against the media, going at, and rightfully so here. Rightfully so. The media had invested a lot in telling us that what Trump and the administration were telling us about the success of these strikes in Iran. They told us that we failed. They told us that we were, only delayed Iran's program by a few months. Trump's out there now saying it's decades. So this is at lifezet.com. Headline, CNN caught lying again. Caroline Leavitt thoroughly debunks their reporting. So she tweeted out something. Actually, a couple of people tweeted some stuff out. This is at Rapid Response 47 on X. posting a couple of, looks like screen grabs of headlines. Iran and Israel agree the precision strikes obliterated the Iranian regime's nuclear facilities. There's two headlines here. One of them says this: Iran's spokesperson says its nuclear installations, quote, badly damaged by U.S. strikes. Another headline here is Israel Atomic Energy Commission says U.S. strike on Fordo, quote, destroyed the site's critical infrastructure. So that's Israel. That's Iran. Now, you've also got the president saying this. Now, you got Caroline Leavitt, who also is adding to this. She's posting more details and depth to this. She says this: Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated, and suggestions otherwise are fake news. What they are saying, Israeli Atomic Energy Commission, quote, the devastating U.S. strike on Fordo destroyed the site's critical infrastructure and rendered the enrichment facility inoperable. We assess that the American strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, combined with Israeli strikes on other elements of Iran's military nuclear program, has set back Iran's ability to develop nuclear weapons by many years. That's what this says. The achievement can continue indefinitely if Iran does not get access to nuclear material. So in other words, it can be permanent if Iran doesn't get access to further nuclear, to have any nuclear material. The DIA, this is Caroline Leavitt's post about the Defense Intelligence Agency, or from the Defense Intelligence Agency. This is a preliminary low-confidence report and will continue to be refined as additional intelligence becomes available. We are working with the appropriate authorities to investigate the unauthorized disclosure of classified information. So there's going to be someone, if people are disseminating this illegally, which obviously has happened somewhere along the path, they're going to be looking to hold these folks accountable. And they pointed out that whatever initial intelligence they had was said to have been a low confidence report. She then tweets IAEA Agency Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi, which I believe they pronounce Grossi, but I'm going to call it Grossi. That's what we're going with here. Given the explosive payload utilized and the extreme vibration-sensitive nature of centrifuges, very significant damage is expected to have occurred. At the Esfahan nuclear site, additional buildings were hit, with the U.S. confirming their use of cruise missiles. Affected buildings include some related to the uranium conversion process. Also at this site, entrances to tunnels used for the storage of enriched material appear to have been hit. At the Natanz enrichment site, the fuel enrichment plant was hit, with the U.S. confirming that it used ground-penetrating munitions. Again, this is multiple people now, right? The IAEA, we got Iran, we got Israel, we got the DIA clarifying some things. Trump posted on Truth Social, monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite image. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level bullseye. Have you seen any of these videos on how these munitions work? They've shown videos of the tests. It's remarkable to watch these things. They hit the ground and just pierce way into the ground until they reach the level of the facility, and they detonate there. It's an incredible thing to watch. Absolutely amazing. By the way, we've been working on this type of weapon for 15 years now in preparation specifically for this mission, knowing that Iran was burying deep beneath the surface of the earth their nuclear weapons programs. And so we knew that we had to figure out a way to potentially go after it one day, and I'm glad that we did. Caroline Leavitt has another post here Fake news, CNN strikes again. This is alleged assessment is flat out wrong. It was classified as top. This is the initial assessment that was leaked to the media and wasn't even supposed to be talked about. It was low confidence and all this stuff. But basically, she said it was leaked by an anonymous low-level loser in the intelligence community. The leaking of this alleged assessment, that's another thing to point out. We don't know. We don't know anything that would be in here. We only know what CNN was told was in this assessment. This leaking of this alleged assessment is a clear attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted a perfectly executed mission to obliterate Iran's nuclear program. Everyone knows what happens when you drop 14 30,000-pound bombs perfectly on their targets. Total obliteration. So she's going after them. She also called out the story when it was initially released. This goes back even almost a week ago when CNN first leaked the story. The White House made bipartisan. Well, this story says that in addition to the leaked intelligence, what's reportedly leaked intelligence, CNN also had a story saying that the White House did not brief top Democrats. Caroline Leavitt says that's absolutely false. In fact, she was on with Fox News this was a while. This was several days ago. When was this? This was the 23rd. But, at the time they were saying they didn't even call, what's his name? Hakeem Jeffries. Sorry about that. And so Caroline Leavitt says, no, that's not the case at all. We tried to brief leaders in both parties. This is what she told Brian Kilmeade at Fox several days ago.
We did make bipartisan calls. Thomas Massie and the Democrats, he should be a Democrat because he's more aligned with them than with the Republican Party. We're given notice. The White House made calls to congressional leadership. They were bipartisan calls. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries couldn't be reached. We tried him before the strike and he didn't pick up the phone, but he was briefed after, as well as Chuck Schumer was briefed prior to the strike. So this notion that CNN ran with that the White House did not give a heads up to Democrats is just completely false. In fact, both Senator Schumer's office and CNN had to retract that story last night because it was a blatant lie. And we showed them the timestamps from those phone calls. But I want to add something to Thomas Massie's false points. The White House was not obligated to call anyone because the president was acting within his legal authority under Article 2 of the Constitution as commander-in-chief of the President of the United States. We gave these calls as a courtesy, and the Democrats are lying about this because they can't talk about the truth of the success of that operation and the success of our United States military and the success of this president and this administration in doing something that past administrations, Democrats too, have only dreamed about.
Yeah, well, it's comparing and contrasting what real leadership looks like, what success looks like. Remember, when Biden was in office, anytime the military, was involved, it was something like the Afghanistan debacle, right? I mean, that's not our military's fault. It's the fault of the people running the show, calling the shots. That was, as much of anything, an encouragement to regimes like Iran that they were not going to be held accountable to an administration at the time, President Bribery, who had no interest in using the military if absolutely necessary. In fact, totally happy to do a withdrawal that was a debacle in every sense of the word. So, look, they can't let Trump have victories. They have to. This is built into the system, right? This is built into the way that they go about it. This is just the way that they're going to talk about it, think about it, and everything else. They're going to malign. They're going to lie. They're going to attack. We went through some of what she mentioned here as well. The president does absolutely have commander-in-chief powers in the Constitution. The question, of course, is where specifically does that line lie between declaring war and acting as commander-in-chief? I've got to take a timeout, my friends. Quick timeout. Back in just a minute. Welcome back, my friends. During the final segment of this, the second hour of the program today, I want to remind you, program brought to you in part by another division of our business called Red, White, and Brand. This business that we launched is something that we have done here in the past as well. We had a company like this. I sold it in 2019. My non-compete expired, and I thought, what better time to re-engage and to help clients in this area as well. But we help put logos on almost anything, my friends. Red, White, and Brand does that. You can find out more information, see some of the products that are there. I'm talking trade show stuff, signage, promotional products, awards and recognition items. You name it, my friends. Red, White, and Brand is here to help you. Promo code Todd, by the way, saves you 10% on your first order. And if you order online, you get free shipping as well. redwhiteandbrand.com. Promo code Todd. Now, I want to share with you, this is I don't know where this initially posted, but Libs of TikTok has reposted this on, that was actually her ex account. But anyway, we have Ella Emhoff, who's the stepdaughter of Kamala Harris. She's in New York City. She's grabbed her phone. She's done a video. She's doing a video here. I'm going to play this for you. Got to get the bleep button ready for how she ends it. But Ella Emhoff is on her way to the polls to vote for Zoran, the communist in New York City. And so I just want you to listen to this. If you want to know what's wrong with the Democrat Party, there's a lot of things wrong. But she talks about the trauma. Ella Emhoff talks about the trauma of voting, of walking to the place where she first voted for Kamala, who she might have called Mamala. I can't remember who calls Kamala what, but Mamala. She voted for her. It's traumatic to go back. It's traumatic to go to the voting booth. But now she gets to vote for a communist in Zoran. So, maybe that all washes out. I don't know. But just listen to this. This demonstrates to me what is truly wrong with the Democrat Party. This is... They wear this as a badge of honor, talking about their traumas as though they're traumatized by something, in this case, the election, or she's traumatized by the election of Trump, which, of course, gives you some virtue signaling points among the radical left. But just a bizarre way of talking about and thinking about things. But this is how they function and operate, my friend. So fortunately, she does survive. So this is broken up into two parts. She's walking to the booth. She doesn't show us inside. She's just walking down the streets. In fact, you'll hear a leaf blower or something. She's not running a weed eater while she's talking about this. Might sound like it a little bit. Anyway, I just want you to listen to this. Part 2 of it, and this is only a 30-second video, but part 2 is her walking out, telling you how proud she is, I guess, of casting her ballot for the communist Zoran. Here you go. Ella Emhoff talking about her trauma while juxtaposing that against her, I guess, pride in voting for Zoran. Here you go. Here you go.
I'm feeling a little trauma walking to the same polling station that I did to vote for Kamala. And, I'm just feeling a lot of hope right now.
Now she's walking out. She did it.
I'm feeling a huge mix of emotions. I'm really nervous, but I'm also so hopeful. It's been so spectacular seeing New York come together in this way and rally behind Zoran. And yeah, let's do this, guys.
Let's do this, guys. Let's vote for the communists. Traumatic to walk into the booth. Excited. Proud to have voted for the communist on my way out of the booth, says Ella Emhoff. Why is that traumatic? We have raised, and I say we. I don't mean you. I don't mean that we're personally, just This nation has raised a big portion of a generation to think that they have real trauma. This is not trauma. How is it traumatic to have to go to a polling place? Trauma. I mean, you compare this to people who have real trauma, real problems in their lives, real problems that exist in the world. Having to go to a physical location that you went to last time that you were able to vote, which would have been back in November, voting for your stepmother, Kamala Harris. You go to the voting booth, you hit a button, or I don't know how they do it in New York, whatever's the easiest to be. I'm kidding. I was going to say have elections stolen. I'm kidding, maybe. So you have, you go back. By virtue of going back to the place that you cast a ballot, that's traumatic. How is that traumatic? How is that traumatic? I mean, the inability of these people to move on or to see things as normal, rational human beings never ceases to amaze me, my friends. This is a form of virtue signaling. The more that they can make their people of their same belief system look at them and say, wow, she cares so much. She's traumatized by going back to the voting booth where she voted for Kamala in 2024. She's traumatized. She cares so much. She cares so much about us, and she's now going to vote for the communist who's going to fix all of New York's problems. Want to bet? Got to go, friends. SDG.